I found myself trapped inside a sweet and fluffy campus novel. The heroine, Hazel, disguises herself as a boy to attend an all-boys school. After an accident, her roommate Wright discovers her true gender, leading to a humorous and lighthearted enemies-to-lovers plot. But the last 10 chapters of this story took a bizarre turn. It seems the author either tried to deepen the theme, or just had a random moment of creativity. Suddenly, a group of people kidnapped Hazel and the supporting character Kara. Hazel managed to escape, but due to her terrible sense of direction, she pointed the rescuers the wrong way, and Kara was thrown into the sea, never to be found. Hazel believed she had caused Kara's death and fell into despair, leaving the hero. Fast forward 10 years, and they reunite in a foreign land, naming their daughter Kara. Unfortunately, I ended up in the exact moment they were kidnapped, in a desolate, empty warehouse. I faced 4 burly men with black hoods, and a handsome young man who, like me, was bound to a post and unconscious. As soon as I opened my eyes and took in the scene, a strange sense of familiarity washed over me. Wasn't this exactly like the kidnapping scene from the novel I read last night? Given that Hazel disguises herself as a boy, the handsome young man must be Hazel, which means I'm the supporting character Kara who's going to end up dead. Oh, great, boss, she's awake. Kara, someone's bought your life. The man called, boss, grabbed my hair, causing me to wince in pain. How much did they pay? The man seemed taken aback by my question, scrutinizing me with a cold, sinister gaze. Tell me. 100,000. 100,000. Just for me. With my looks and figure, you get more if you sold me to a high-end brothel. The 4 men across from me were momentarily stunned by my outburst. I raised my voice, raised the price. They have to pay more. I may die, but I have to die worth something. That's not quite what worth something means, said another man, with a hint of mockery. Mind your own business. Boss, I think she makes a good point. If we split the 100,000 among the 4 of us, we each get. He pulled out his phone, looking like he was calculating. 25,000. I answered promptly, thanks, the burly man said, nodding at me appreciatively. The boss continued to eye me with that scrutinizing gaze. I decided to stir things up further. Do you know who I'm next to? This is Nellie's son's fiancé. The one from the Nellie family that sells shampoos, conditioners, and anti-hair loss treatments nationwide. Bet he's a man, the slightly naive kidnapper remarked. I gave a knowing smile. Rich people have all sorts of quirks. According to you, we should let her go to avoid offending the Nellie family. After all, they only bought your life. Wait, does the boss actually have some sort of professional ethics? Could it be that Hazel managed to escape because they let her go on purpose? You guys don't make much money in this line of work, do you? I asked sympathetically. We're caught in a cycle, one of them replied. Exactly. First, you kidnap me, then you demand ransom from my family. Once you get the money, you tear up the ransom note, then you use my death to blackmail your employer, extracting as much money as you can. When he runs out, you sell the information about my case back to my family, making another profit. It's a steady stream of income. The 3 men grabbed plastic chairs, sitting in front of me with looks of admiration. Kara knows a lot, the boss said. It's just family education, nothing special. The Francis family is a top-tier aristocracy. Kara must be joking, the boss said with a hint of sarcasm. I spoke gravely. Capitalists are the ones who are truly dirty. The 3 men on the plastic chairs looked enlightened. I continued, you know the Francis family is top tier, so why only charge the other side 100,000? You're not underestimating the Francis family. You're underestimating me. The boss suddenly laughed. Kara, you're different from what I expected, but you're exactly like the kidnappers in my book, I said sincerely. He laughed again. The boss didn't ask the employer for more money or kill me. They left, leaving Hazel and me in the warehouse. Not long after they left, Hazel woke up. I have to say, Hazel really knows how to pick her moment. Her voice trembled with fear. Kara, are we being kidnapped? No, we're following the plot. Hazel choked up. What do you mean, following the plot? I mean, you're the heroine, Wright is the hero. You're destined to be kidnapped and saved by him. Your feelings will quickly escalate, leading to a happy ending. And finally, you'll have a pair of genius twins. Hazel looked at me with an expression that seemed to say, is this girl out of her mind? She remained silent for a moment and said, there's no such thing as destiny. Really, I'm just trying to explain the plot, and she doesn't believe me. Hazel's eyes suddenly lit up. Kara, there's a piece of glass stuck in the upper left corner of the post next to you. If you can kick it out, we can use the shards to cut through the tape. What if they come back? We won't be able to escape. She spoke urgently, and I turned to look closely at her. Wasn't she just awake? How does she know there's more than one kidnapper? In the novel, Hazel's features aren't particularly refined, but she has a comfortable and harmonious look, far more spirited than the arrogant and beautiful supporting character. Indeed, her short hair gave her a youthful, androgynous appearance, with her tear-filled eyes and delicate, innocent look. Interesting. Sorry, Kara, this is difficult for you, but I heard from Wright that you've studied dance for many years, so you might be able to. Sorry, it's all my fault. No, it's not difficult at all. I don't have a dance background, but the original Kara had 10 years of classical dance training. It's not hard to kick the glass out with microstring. Thanks, Kara. We will definitely get out of here, Hazel said, looking at me with hope. I can do it. Didn't you see I'm wearing a skirt? It will expose me, I said seriously. Hazel cracked up. You know perfectly well I'm a girl and I can close my eyes. Her voice was grated with frustration. Hazel softened her tone. Kara, this is our only chance to escape. If they come back, we won't be able to get away. I gave her a half smile. Strictly speaking, the Kara in the book isn't a bad person, but I am. I won't do it. To avoid the heroine escaping, and then pointing the rescuers in the wrong direction. Let's keep her with the heroine Halo and stay with me. Hazel persisted in convincing me. I simply closed my eyes and recalled the novel's plot. In the last 10 chapters, the supporting character dies, the heroine goes abroad, and the hero takes over the family business early. Then, it jumps straight to the reunion of the leads 10 years later. During those 10 years, the truth about the kidnapping and the leads' lives were mentioned. Hazel and I were tied up in the same place. According to the original plot, since Hazel couldn't escape, it means the boss and his men left. They never intended to kill anyone. At least not Hazel. If Hazel needs Kara's help to kick the glass to escape, it means either she successfully escaped first and didn't want to help Kara, or someone else arrived midway and she couldn't assist. Not wanting to help doesn't make sense if she leaves Kara behind and points rescuers in the wrong direction. It doesn't guarantee Kara's death unless she knows someone will come to kill Kara and is buying time for them, eventually hiding the truth from the police. The answer is clearly the obsessive second male lead, Kevin Bennett, would willingly kill for the heroine. Kevin Bennett is a boy adopted by the Bennett family, and Hazel took on his identity at St. Anne's. After discovering Hazel's true gender, Kara threatened to expose her identity many times, and Kevin Bennett wouldn't want this ticking time bomb near his sister. Of course, he'd throw her into the sea. I sighed deeply. It wasn't even that challenging to figure out. Soon enough, my guess was confirmed. Help us. The warehouse door opened, and someone entered with a flashlight. I was groggy, and the light flashed onto my face. As I opened my eyes, I became alert. This second male lead looks incredibly handsome, with perfect facial features, well-defined lines, a sharp nose, autumn-like eyes, and a beautiful smile. He's like a walking ideal type, not a sickly second male lead, and else clearly my ideal male guest. I stared at him, but he ignored me and went straight to Hazel to remove her tape. Hang in there. Peeling off the tape was painful, and Hazel gasped softly. I followed up with a feigned delicate tone. Big brother, be gentle when you're peeling it off. I'm scared of pain. This is my brother, Hazel said, with a tone that was clearly less than pleased, probably due to my earlier refusal to help. I smiled nonchalantly. In that case, I'll agree to help you, but only if you give me your brother in exchange. This isn't the same thing at all. Hazel turned red-faced and didn't deny her relationship with Wright. Kevin Bennett paused in his task of removing the tape from Hazel. I couldn't shake the feeling that Kevin Bennett wasn't planning to kill me after all. Sure enough, once Hazel was free, he started helping me with my tape. How funny. It wasn't painful at all. Hazel just likes to exaggerate. The tape on my wrist was manageable, but since I was wearing a short skirt, when he worked on the tape around my ankles, his warm breath on my legs felt tingly. I couldn't help teasing him. Don't look up, or you'll see something you shouldn't. Kevin Bennett stood up, his voice cold. Then do it yourself. You're upset because I didn't let you look, I asked, feigning surprise. Fine, then look. Hazel gave me another "is this girl out of her mind" look. Let's go. Kevin Bennett clearly wasn't going to help me anymore, and led Hazel towards the door. I bent down, easily unwrapping the tape. Hey, wait for me. After being tied up for so long, my limbs were numb, and I couldn't move fast. It would be great if a car could come by in this deserted area. Just as I was having this thought, the whir of a heavy motorcycle came from not far away, and it came to a screeching halt nearby. The man on the bike, wearing a helmet, swung his long legs off the bike and let the pricey vehicle fall into the grass. Hazel, feeling shy, lowered her head. Was there even a need to ask? It had to be the male lead, right? Next up was the classic scene where the leads, having survived a crisis, confess their feelings and shower each other with affection. Sure enough, Wright abandoned the bike, ran quickly to our spot, and then tightly embraced me. Wait, he's hugging me. Kara, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so glad you're okay. I'm sorry. I was stunned. Here was the male lead, acting unusually emotional. Behind me were the female lead and the male supporting character, glaring at us with murderous intent. I was fine, but I was about to be in trouble. I pushed him away, tears in my eyes. Right. Don't worry, I won't bother you anymore. Taking advantage of his stunned state, I gathered all my strength, ran to the motorcycle, straightened it up, got on, and started it. Broom. One reason I didn't want to walk was that I used the moment of mounting the bike to show the Bennett siblings' eyes. I was actually wearing safety shorts. In no time, I vanished over the horizon, leaving the three of them dumbfounded. But I wasn't as cheerful as I looked, because I had no idea where the Francis family lived. With my wallet and phone gone, I had no money, so I decided to sell Wright's motorcycle. I remembered that Kevin Bennett had opened a repair shop after dropping out of school. The name was easy to remember. What a coincidence. Have you ever seen one of those small breakfast joints, with just storefronts merged together and blackened walls? Kevin Bennett's repair shop was somewhat like that, minus the open kitchen and a few tables. A burly man stood at the entrance, bald, wearing a white tank top, and expressionlessly slurping noodles. He had a big head, a thick neck, and to be honest, looked like a cook. It made me want to shout with full gusto, "Hey, boss, give me a bowl of noodles." But I couldn't. I patted his bald shoulder and whispered, "Did you see that bike across the street? Make an offer." The bald man was startled by my unexpected question. His eyes widened like bells, and the noodles got stuck in his throat, causing him to cough violently. Cough, 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 cough. "Hey, are you okay?" I kindly patted his back a few times. His face turned red from coughing, and he avoided my hand, rushing upstairs while coughing his lungs out. I felt guilty. Before long, a tall, thin man came out. "Hello, miss, we don't offer that service. Please leave." He had a standard smile, speaking clearly and forcefully, resembling a scammer's voice from a robocall. I pointed to the motorcycle across the street. That bike cut off to zeros from the market price. His smile faltered. "Please wait a moment." Then he disappeared, exhausted and hungry. I Saturday in the spot the bald man had just occupied. No need to guess. The tall man must have gone to call Kevin Bennett. What's there to call about? Might as well just get me a bowl of noodles. I was starving. "Miss, our boss agreed, but you'll need to wait until he returns. We'll handle payment and delivery together." I was so tired I just nodded. By the time they came back, it would be morning. "Sure, no problem. Where's your boss's room?" "First room on the left on the second floor." I yawned. "Make sure to bring a bowl of noodles up when you're done." The tall man was taken aback. "But won't the noodles get soggy?" "No, I'm the one eating them." I rubbed my neck and casually went upstairs. The bald man seemed anxious and tried to stop me, but was held back by the tall man. "All right, I'll bring them up later." Halfway up the stairs, I suddenly wondered, "Hey, do you guys manage the repair shop with just 2 people?" The bald man tried to speak, but the tall man cut him off. "We also have the boss with 3 people. There's not much work." "I see." The bald man was clearly frustrated and said sharply, "Third brother, why didn't you let me stop her? Kevin's room is never allowed to be entered." The tall man gave him a hard knock on the head. "Wooden head." Kevin said, "Not to make things difficult for her. Hurry and cook the noodles. Also, make me 2 extra eggs." Should we add eggs to her noodles? Are you stupid or what? I had assumed the male's second lead's room would be painted entirely black, with him sleeping in the middle of a coffin every night. But no. Kevin Bennett's room looked like a child's room, decorated in excessively bright colors, with sky blue walls, pale yellow carpet, daisy-shaped nightlights, and even a corner full of stuffed animals all arranged neatly. I searched around to see if there was a crib. After pondering, I concluded that this bizarre decoration must be the work of the female lead. I was already getting annoyed. I deliberately rearranged the stuffed animals, turning their heads down like a row of inverted garlic. That felt better. Heavy motorcycles are hard to handle. The unfamiliar roads, the wind, and sweat made me feel dirty and smelly, in urgent need of a shower and a change of clothes. When I'd opened Kevin Bennett's wardrobe, I found only black clothes. If you didn't know better, you'd think he was playing a match -3 game, with no other options. I picked out a t-shirt and shorts. When I finally got to shower after a long day, I looked at myself in the mirror. Wow. I finally understood why I ended up in this book. Turns out the female supporting character not only had the same name as me but looked exactly like me. The rising steam covered the mirror slowly, and I absent-mindedly wiped it away. It was uncanny, so much so that it made me feel this world was both real and unreal. After a distracted shower, I had to wash my clothes. Noticing that Kevin Bennett's clothes had a pleasant scent, I made a mental note of the brand of laundry detergent. If the thrilling kidnapping made everything seem like a game, then the slowly clean clothes made it all seem like real life. Once I had finished these things, I suddenly remembered where was my noodles. I slammed the door open. Where are my noodles? Kevin Bennett stood in the hallway, holding a cigarette between his right fingers. The small flame burned quietly in the dim hallway light, like a spark of a star. His calm, cold gaze was as still as a deep pool. He said, "I ate your noodles." Bang. The door slammed shut. I absolutely did not want to appear before a man I hadn't even managed to get yet without any makeup. See those two mountains that were moved by the old man? Those are my fairy accessories. Unfortunately, this was Kevin Bennett's room, and he was obviously a single straight man. 10 minutes later, still barefaced, dressed in an ill-fitting t-shirt and shorts, and sporting a messy bun, I stepped out of the room, because Kevin Bennett said, "I'll compensate you with dinner. There's a barbecue stall across the street. Anything you don't eat." Yes, I don't eat anything without meat. The outdoor barbecue stall had a small table, meaning, if I leaned in a little, my knee could touch Kevin Bennett's thigh. But it's hard to create any romantic atmosphere while eating skewers. I brushed against his thigh, and he gave me a "I understand" look before turning to the vendor and saying, "2 more bottles of beer." Fine. If it's not going to happen, it's not going to happen. At least I still had beef skewers, lamb skewers, tendon skewers, chicken skin, and, damn it, no chicken heart. Kevin Bennett had eaten the last one. "Boss, give me 10 more chicken hearts." I defiantly took the last tendon skewer. "Boss, give me 10 more tendons." While speaking, Kevin Bennett's thin lips were glistening with red oil, looking quite kissable. No way. I still really wanted to win him over. Be it a delusion or an illusion, he was the only one who ignited my desires in this illusory world. Eventually, I couldn't eat anymore. Kevin Bennett stopped as well. "If the deal doesn't work out, that bike belongs to Wright." I raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean? Do you dislike Wright as the owner? Or do you dislike that I don't have the authority to dispose of it? Is there a difference?" "Yes, there is. If you dislike Wright as the owner, I can get you a new one, but it'll take time. If you dislike that I don't have the authority, you're wrong. I actually bought the bike myself, and just let him use it for a while." I smiled at him. Care waited a year for this model to please Wright, but no need to be too clear about it. Wright was just a hobbyist, while Kevin Bennett was a hardcore motorcycle enthusiast. I didn't believe he wouldn't be tempted. "All right, I'll buy this bike. Get me a new one too." Huh. It was the first time I clearly read Kevin Bennett's gaze, which said, "Of course, adults want both." Deal. Waiting for a model could take a year or more, but if you wait long enough, you might find love. I added, "But you have to drive me home tomorrow. I'm not good with directions." Kevin Bennett nodded. "Sure, TSK. You really do know where the Francis family lives." Similarly, tonight, being homeless, if I had the female lead's halo, I would be staying in Kevin Bennett's room, alone with him, counting up, but I had the female supporting character's halo, so I had to settle for a budget hotel at $130 a night. Good night, Matsabaka. Before I fell asleep, I wondered if I'd still be here when I woke up tomorrow. Turns out, I was. Just after waking up, I was already thinking about the noodles I didn't get to eat last night. After packing up and checking out, I ran back to the repair shop. "Is anyone here? Can someone make me a bowl of noodles?" The place was empty. I called out while climbing the stairs. On the second floor, among the rooms, Kevin Bennett's door was slightly ajar, and I could faintly hear the sound of running water. I boldly pushed the door open and sat her down, waiting for Kevin Bennett to finish his shower. Waiting for what? Of course, to see his six-pack, abs, and V-line. The sound of water in the bathroom continued for a long time. I looked around the room out of boredom, noticing that the colors during the day seemed even brighter. The sheets I had briefly lain on last night seemed to have been changed, proving that Kevin Bennett had quite a cleanliness obsession. He had noticed the mischievous arrangement of the stuffed animals. The stuffed animals remained in their upside-down positions, both tragic and amusing. While I was secretly amused, the sound of water stopped. Kevin Bennett stepped out, looking sharp and fresh, carrying a basin of freshly washed bed linens. If I had a protagonist halo, the story wouldn't have ended like this. Do you remember me saying that the last 10 chapters of this novel were a mess? The Bennetts died young before the heroine met the hero. Kevin Bennett acted as her guardian angel, giving up his place in school for her and choosing to drop out. After the heroine fell in love with the hero, he started to darken, even locking her in a small dark room. Just when she finally escaped, she and Carol were kidnapped by bandits. 10 years later, the hero and heroine reconcile, but there's no mention of the fate of the male supporting character. He's like a shadow meticulously sketched by the author, hidden away in places devoid of light. But what did I see Kevin Bennett as? He was dressed in black, standing in the sunlight. He shook out the freshly washed bed linens, spread them out, and hung them up to dry. filling the room with the scent of sunshine. He turned to me and said, "They've gone out. I'll make you some noodles in a bit." I found it hard to connect this Kevin Bennett to the shadowy figure from the book. Did he really kill Kara? Honestly, Kevin Bennett's cooking skills are pretty average. After all, instant noodles with 2 eggs can't be that bad, nor can they be that good. By the way, did you decorate your room yourself? Yes. Kevin Bennett paused. It's based on the room I remember from my childhood. Childhood? Could it be before he was adopted by the Bennetts? Kara didn't know he wasn't Hazel's biological brother, so I didn't ask further. After finishing the noodles, he handed me a brown paper bag containing $100,000 and a new phone. "This is the amount we agreed on yesterday." Me. "A market price minus 2 zeros equals 100,000. So, what's the market value of that car?" Kevin Bennett didn't say anything. It was all too clear. $1 million motorcycle. I clutched my chest. Kara could never afford that price. It must have been prepared by her cheap father. Kara wasn't a one-dimensional villainess. Her pursuit of right wasn't just out of simple affection. The Francis family had assets comparable to the Nellys. But Kara, as a young lady, was an afterthought. She was the illegitimate daughter of the heroine's mother's ex-husband. Ernest Francis gave her his surname as an extra bargaining chip for future marriage prospects, when several ladies mocked her status in the garden. 14-year-old Kara hid in the rose bushes and cried softly, and it was Wright who found her. He took her hand and carefully avoided the thorns. Wright accompanied her into the banquet hall, and her stepfather said meaningfully to Wright, "Seems like the kids get along well." At 14, she vaguely understood that she was always being put on the market, and Wright was the only one who could help her fetch a high price. Everyone in the circle knew Kara had been clinging to Wright since her teenage years. The marriage between their families seemed almost certain until Hazel appeared. Wright began to clearly reject the engagement, and Kara started trying to force Hazel out. Rather than saying Kara was desperately holding on to Wright, it was more accurate to say she was clutching at her last hope. If Wright didn't want her, who knew who Ernest Francis would try to win over using her? The arrogant and vicious Francis young lady. Kara, with her stunning beauty, was still that little girl hiding in the rose bushes, never truly rescued. "Kevin Bennett, I wanted to ask, if we had no interactions before yesterday, would you have ruthlessly killed me or Kara? What's wrong?" Kevin Bennett looked at me with calm eyes. "You know I've always been targeting Hazel, right?" "Yes. So, would you kill me for Hazel?" The bowl of noodles on the table, the dense sunlight, the sound of cicadas from the trees. I shouldn't have asked, but I felt bad if I asked. He would tell me the truth. Kevin Bennett remained as calm as the sea. He said, "I would warn you, and I would teach you a lesson. But I wouldn't kill you. My hands are dirty, but I would never use killing as a solution." I believed him, but I didn't know what to say. After a moment of silence, Kevin Bennett lowered his gaze, his raven black lashes concealing the emotions in his eyes. I awkwardly changed the subject. "Let's go. You promised to take me home." "Okay." Kevin Bennett is 6 Anna, and I'm 5'7". Riding the same small electric scooter together really looked like animal abuse. The warm midday breeze blew over, carrying a pleasant scent. I looked down and sniffed my collar. It's strange that, even though we used the same laundry detergent, my clothes didn't smell as good as his. I leaned closer to Kevin Bennett's shoulder and tentatively took a sniff. "So fragrant. Is this what Tang Sen's meat would smell like?" I sniffed again. "Stay still. Don't move around." Kevin Bennett's every word was scattered in the wind. Francis' estate is in a hillside villa area. I went through security with facial recognition, and the guard looked at the small electric scooter with a puzzled expression. Kevin Bennett skillfully dropped me off at the entrance to the Francis home. "Go on in." "Yeah, don't you have anything else to say to me?" He shook his head. "Then say goodbye." Kevin Bennett glanced at the Francis house's big door. "Goodbye, Kara." I nodded in satisfaction. "Goodbye. It's certain that we'll meet again, because I'm returning to the Francis home just to be kicked out." I started to eagerly rub my hands. After pressing the doorbell, a plain-looking woman opened the door. "Miss, what are you doing back today? Aren't you supposed to be skiing with Wright this week?" I nonchalantly made up a story. "Wright got snow blindness from playing too much, so we came back a few days early." Well, where's my mom?" "She's in the living room on the first floor, video calling with the young master." "Oh, right. Kara has a half-brother. He was sent abroad by Ernest Francis a long time ago." In the storyline 10 years later, he briefly appears, targeting Hazel, who was also abroad, leading to her losing her job and drowning her sorrows in a bar where she runs into Wright, who was abroad for a break. I followed the sound and saw a beautifully dressed woman, lying half reclined on the sofa with soft pillows, on a video call. The heroine's mother looked up at me. "You're back." "I'm video calling with Kale." "Wait a moment." I thought for a moment. "Mom, do you know what split personality is?" The heroine's mother, who had maintained her looks well, looked puzzled. Not really. Oh, then I have a split personality. The heroine's mother clearly understood this wasn't a good term. Kara, what are you crazy about? Don't you get it? Split personality, also known as madness. I shrugged. I'm crazy. Kara had thought about escaping Francis' control, but the heroine's mother constantly reminded her that without the Francis family, she was nothing. She pointed at Kara and scolded. I gave you such a beautiful face, and you can't even keep a man. What else can you do? But I'm not that Kara. I let the heroine's mother have it. I said I'm crazy, so I'm crazy. What do you want me to do if I'm not crazy? Does anyone care about me? I didn't even finish high school. No one wants me to wash dishes. What more do you want me to say? My hatred for you is like a stone. Chicken or egg first. You don't care. Schrodinger's cat. Is it dead or alive? You don't care. You only care about yourself. I'm a living person, living like a transparent person in the cold Francis home. I can't sleep for nights on end, wishing helplessly at the sun in the sky. What else can I do if not go crazy? The heroine's mother's mouth opened and closed, but it was the moon in the sky at night. I watched as she fell powerless in the face of my outburst, her face growing more and more awkward, her anger rendering her speechless. She stared at me with wide eyes, her mouth moving silently, resembling a ba-ba. PG. The young woman who had helped me open the door had her head so low I wondered if she was looking for a seam on the floor. Working people have it tough. Before the heroine's mother could organize her thoughts, I quickly turned and headed for the stairs. Get a cup of tea and put it in my room. Sure, miss. I could tell she sighed in relief. Following her, I found Kara's room. Piano, oil paintings, Doujin, chess, fencing. The room was full of these items. It didn't feel like a living space. Kara had organized everything neatly. Soon, I found all her identification documents. With the documents and $100,000, it didn't matter where I went. Just as I was happily planning my future, there was a sudden knock on the door. Come in. The angry heroine's mother handed me the phone. Your dad is looking for you. The first short words carried a sense of threat, intimidation, and hints of many meanings. Hello, I answered the phone casually. Wright just called me. Have you been intentionally ignoring him lately? Your methods are good, but don't overdo it. Since he's softening up with me, you should take that initiative. Ernest Francis' voice sounded like a smiling tiger, and I instantly felt a sense of enlightenment. It's Wright who's too materialistic. You wouldn't believe it. I asked him what he wanted for graduation, and he asked me for the motorcycle from last time, saying it's lonely in the garage. Is that something a person would say? Can we really keep indulging him like this? I could clearly sense Ernest Francis on the other end of the phone going silent for a few seconds. Nellie's family only has one son. You have to give to get. The money will be transferred to your account. You need to personally order something meaningful. Got it. Kevin Bennett, meeting a little clever person like me. You really did good in your past life. Ernest Francis continued to give me a few tips on how to please Wright before ending the call. Did you remember what your dad said? Instead of being so mysterious, why not think about how to get right? It's embarrassing to be beaten to the punch by a little girl who's neither male nor female. I'm really embarrassed for you. My dad died a long time ago. What's the point of remembering Ernest Francis' words? Learn how to be a pimp from him. If you want to embarrass me, go ahead. If you're eager to embarrass me, can I stop you? Kara, you. The heroine's mother started shaking again. I grabbed the box I had just packed and strode down the stairs. Kevin Bennett certainly didn't expect that my farewell was meant for catching lunch together, but a surprise guest arrived at the repair shop. Kara, you're really here? This was my first time seeing Wright without his helmet. His sword-like eyebrows and bright eyes, making him look like a sunshine boy raised in a honey jar. He didn't hold me tight this time. Instead, he ran over, looked around me left and right, his eyes bloodshot, saying, I'm so glad you're okay. I'm so glad. My suspicions were growing clear in my mind. I asked, Wright, do you know something? He stared at me for a long time, his voice hoarse. I had a dream. In the dream, you died, rather than a dream. It was more like Wright's perspective of the 10 years after Kara's death. The girl who had grown up with him was suddenly gone. The police said it was suicide, but Wright didn't believe it. It was Kara. How could she have committed suicide? Hazel was crying and kept apologizing. Wright felt a metallic taste in his throat and couldn't speak. What could he say? If you had pointed to the wrong place, maybe Kara wouldn't have died. If she had committed suicide, was it because I had pushed her too hard lately? He had hoped that someday Kara would meet someone she truly loved and understand his desire to be with Hazel. He knew Kara had a bad relationship with Ernest Francis. When she got married, he would act as her family and personally hand her over to the one who loved her. But how could Kara be gone? Kara's death loomed between him and Hazel. They grew increasingly silent, and when Hazel went abroad, he continued investigating the kidnapping case. Eventually, I found something on Kevin Bennett. Right glance at Kevin Bennett, who was sitting in the shop, fiddling with a small part, and not paying attention to them. He targeted the Francis family after making a name for himself in business. At first, I was puzzled until one evening at a party, he brought up the old Land King case. I noticed the reaction of the female lead's father was very strange. I murmured, "The Land King case." "Yes, the Land King case that shocked Washington 20 years ago." Back then, the Francis family announced a financial collapse, and Ernest Francis transferred an old city redevelopment project in the core area to Sam Smollett, Kara's biological father. A few years later, the project turned into an unprecedented eyesore, and Sam Smollett and his backers lost everything, resulting in their suicides. One was Sam Smollett, and the other was Kevin Bennett's biological father. The Bennett family was formerly employees of Kevin Bennett's father. He had known what had happened since he was a child. I suspected he was targeting the Francis family to get revenge on you, but I couldn't find solid evidence. So, after the Francis family collapsed, I started going against Kevin Bennett, and we clashed for several more years. Later, he suddenly left Washington. I thought I'd never know the truth until Hazel told me what really happened that day. After the Land King case, a huge sum of money from the Francis family flowed into an overseas account. Kevin Bennett suspected it was from our Nellie family, which is why he kept blocking Hazel and me from being together. He kidnapped you to threaten Ernest Francis, just to obtain the name on that account. I thought of Ernest Francis and Coley smiled. Of course, he'd refuse. Wright pursed his lips. After all these years, he knew how awkward Kara's situation was with the Francis family. Yes, Ernest Francis hung up the phone and told Kevin Bennett, "If you want to kill, just kill." The voice was on speaker, and Kara heard those words clearly. Kevin Bennett stared at the phone, suddenly feeling it was ridiculous. He untied the tape from Kara. "You should go." But after he left, Kara jumped into the sea. At this point, Wright seemed lost in thought for a long time. "Kara, promise me, no matter what, don't do anything foolish. Ernest Francis is just an idiot. If you're really kidnapped, call me. We'll pay any ransom." "There, forget that. Kara will definitely be safe and live a long life." He spoke incoherently. I felt like crying. If the real Kara were here, she'd be so happy to hear this. It felt like a deep sleep. When I woke up, I found the kidnapping case had really come true, but thankfully, "You're okay." Wright had a look of profound relief on his face. I was suddenly speechless, but the real Kara was gone. Would she, like me, be in another time and space? I thought for a moment and asked him, "Do you know who's behind Ernest Francis?" Wright frowned. Burton Birdie. That was the result Kevin Bennett had discovered after a long time. Ernest Francis, Sam Smollett, Burton Birdie, once close friends. Burton Birdie went into politics, while Ernest Francis and Sam Smollett went into business. In the end, Sam Smollett committed suicide, and Ernest Francis and Burton Birdie went to prison. The outcome was rather lamentable. "Kara, do you want to tell Kevin Bennett?" I nodded. "Not only tell him, but I also want to help him, to avenge Kara and her biological father." After saying everything, Wright seemed to feel a lot lighter. He squinted at Kevin Bennett. "But I still don't like him." I understood. No protagonist would like the supporting character. He hesitated before speaking. "Kara, there's one more thing. Can you not blame Hazel for what I've told you?" Compared to the pure and kind heroine, Hazel, with her personal interests, intelligence, and principles, was easier for me to understand. I rolled my eyes. "Sure, but you have to promise me something too." I leaned close to his ear and whispered a few words. Wright's face turned beet red. Why are you saying that?" "Hazel and I, anyway. We don't tell anyone. I promise." I had intended to tease him further, but a loud crash came from the room. Boom. Wright and I looked at Kevin Bennett in unison. He looked extremely calm and said, "Sorry, I accidentally dropped something." Wright shared all the information about the Land King case with Kevin Bennett on behalf of the Nellie family. After Kevin Bennett thanked him, he went back to his room without saying a word. I followed him silently. I remember he had once said, this room was like his room from childhood, with such a bright color scheme. His parents must have hoped he could grow up carefree. Kevin Bennett stared at a toy corner and suddenly said, "I used to like putting my toys in word poses when I was a kid." His tone was filled with nostalgia. "You can still do that now." I pulled Kevin Bennett over and squatted in front of the toys. "Which toy is your favorite?" Kevin Bennett blinked, his long lashes fluttering like a butterfly. "I don't know." "Well, I'll choose first." "I want the blue bear." "I want the blue bear too." I hid the bear behind me. "No," I said, "I'd choose first. I want that one." Kevin Bennett wrapped his arms around my waist, reaching out to grab the bear with a sparkle in his eyes. We were very close, close enough for me to repeatedly catch a mysterious scent on him. Then, we named the toys, posed them, and played for a long time. Kevin Bennett, driven by hatred, had grown up quickly. Today, he was finally allowed to be a child again. We only went downstairs when we were starving. To our surprise, not only was Wright still there, but Hazel had also arrived. They were deep in conversation, both with very flushed faces. Definitely some gossip. Hazel awkwardly called me, Kara, can we talk alone for a moment? Why call me Kara? That's too formal. Just call me sister-in-law. I stole a glance at Kevin Bennett, who seemed to be ignoring us. Have you two eaten yet? The two opposite nodded dully. I turned to Kevin Bennett. Then we'll make noodles for the two of us. Hazel's pupils widened in shock. Sister, Kara, come over here. I followed her. Hazel, blushing under the tree, spoke very softly. Kara, why did you tell Wright about us having a baby on New Year's Eve in 10 years? I teased her. That. Which part? Her voice was even softer. Why did you make us have a baby? Because I really want to see a genius twin. I said it very seriously, and Hazel's face turned even redder. You're just talking nonsense. I wasn't talking nonsense. I'd even seen the meat scraps from your New Year's Eve. When I brought the blushing Hazel back, Kevin Bennett had already cooked the noodles. Maybe we were so hungry, but this time the taste was pretty good. Hazel, looking at the noodles with longing, said, my brother used to make this for me, just for convenience. So, I cheerfully drank a few more spoonfuls of soup. Before Wright and Hazel went back to school, they asked for my contact information. That's when I realized I only had a phone and hadn't gotten a SIM card yet. Kevin Bennett seemed to guess what I was about to say and said, the SIM card is installed. When I turned on the phone, sure enough, there was a number saved in the contacts labeled Kevin Bennett. I raised an eyebrow at him, and Kevin Bennett deliberately turned away. His ears red. Everyone's so easily embarrassed. It's like poking a shrimp nest. Kara had already been accepted into a good university in her sophomore year, but I wanted to take the college entrance exam. So Hazel and Wright came over every day to tutor me. Kevin Bennett and the others came and went from the shop early and late, and I hardly ever saw them. I asked Wright, how's Kevin doing? He always gave me an unreadable look. Eventually, I stopped asking. One night, after struggling with a problem and falling asleep on the desk, I woke up to find a blanket draped over me and two methods of solving the problem written on a note. In the lower right corner of the note were the flamboyant characters 7 Bennett, so arrogant. During this period, I stayed in Kevin Bennett's auto repair shop. There were 4 people in the shop: Kevin Bennett, a tall and skinny guy, a bald man, and a flower-sleeved guy I hadn't met before. Only the flower-sleeved guy didn't stay on the second floor. When Kevin Bennett formally introduced the 4 of them to me, I looked at him meaningfully. Those were the 4 who had kidnapped me. The tall, skinny guy laughed and said, no pain, no gain. It's all fate. I snorted, and the other 3 quickly disappeared. Kevin, I suddenly remembered their steel cargo to unload. Kevin, I'm going to eat. Kevin, I have a stomachache. I pinched his face hard. You even pulled my hair. Kevin Bennett looked innocent and pure. I asked him, weren't you supposed to use me to threaten Ernest Francis? Why didn't you find him? He recalled that day and said, I was planning to, but after talking with you, I didn't want to do it anymore. I don't even know why I gave up. He said, maybe sometimes it's just a matter of a change in thought. That night, I went to bed early. The next morning, I woke up in a completely unfamiliar room, and there was actually a man lying next to me. The person was dressed in a well-tailored suit, facing away from me, as if taking a short nap. Oh my God, am I wearing this again? I carefully stepped over him, but my foot slipped and thud. I ended up sitting right on top of him. Help, this awkward position. He didn't wake up, but his profile looks oddly familiar. I slowly leaned in to get a better look at his face. Oh my God, Kevin Bennett. Wait, this isn't Kevin Bennett. Although his features are similar, he looks much more mature and cold compared to Kevin Bennett. As I was in shock, he also opened his dazzling, peach blossom eyes. Kara. I suddenly had a bold guess that I end up 10 years into the future. I scrambled off the bed, and Kevin Bennett was sitting on the sofa, looking at me with a very displeased expression. His eyes were filled with suspicion and weariness. Nervously, I asked, why are you looking at me like that? Kevin Bennett said, look at your feet. Why am I floating in the air? Kevin Bennett's eyes now held a bit more sympathy, because you've been dead for 10 years. I understood now I'd somehow ended up 10 years into the original timeline. I didn't know how to explain this bizarre series of events, so I could only stare blankly. Kevin Bennett rubbed his temples. Do you have any last wishes? Hearing that, I felt even more frustrated. Yes, I still haven't slept with Kevin Bennett. His face stiffened. I clarify, not you, though you are you, but from a parallel universe. Kevin Bennett asked, are parallel universes real? Yes, In that universe, I didn't die. You'll get your revenge soon, and Hazel and Wright are doing fine. Sounds good, he said with a faint smile. He continued, Kara, I'm sorry, I'm not apologizing to you, but to the Kara from the parallel universe. If she hadn't been dragged into my mess, she could have been as happy as the Kara from another universe. If I could start over, I would never have done this, he said softly. I tried to comfort him. Maybe Kara ended up in a universe that's better suited for her. Your body, Kevin Bennett interrupted me. I looked down suspiciously, and my body seemed to be becoming more and more transparent. I screamed and woke up from the dream. Kevin Bennett rushed over from the next room when he heard the commotion. What's wrong? It's nothing, just a nightmare. Kevin Bennett gently patted my back. Don't be scared. Don't be scared. I held him tightly. His scent reassured me. This is the best timeline. The best Kevin Bennett. Soon after, my college entrance exams ended. My mother had called me several times. Every time she was sarcastic. So I hung up. Eventually, she started talking to me properly. Kevin Bennett told me the day before that Francis' family was in trouble. She excitedly told me that Ernest Francis had gone crazy and wanted to divorce her, sending her to kill and giving her a lot of money. She told me to treat her better, or she wouldn't leave me a penny. Does the heroine's mother have a motherly heart? She loves only herself and money. She spent her life being a parasite and probably doesn't really understand how to be good to her own daughter. After Bert and Bertie's downfall, many people were implicated, and Ernest Francis was deeply involved. But I didn't expect him to want to see me, or rather, Kara. This was our first meeting, in a prison. He looked dejected, his hair gray, unable to accept losing everything overnight. His voice was far from calm compared to a year ago. His eyes full of bitterness. All these years, seeing you always reminds me of Sam Smollett. I shrugged indifferently. Father and daughter, of course you look alike. He laughed. When I was young, he always had the upper hand, but he was a short-lived man. Every time I saw your fearful and ingratiating look, it felt so satisfying. He's dead, and his child is no better. I was wrong about you. You're quite capable, managing to get someone else to fight your battles. I coldly retorted, a lifetime of scheming, and in the end, your life ends in prison. Seeing you like this, I also find it satisfying. Ernest Francis laughed heartily, his laughter hoarse and intense. It seemed as if his laughter had drained him of all energy. Do you think you'll be worry-free for the rest of your life? That kid is shrewd and ruthless. How could your fate be any better? At your age, still indulging in mental victories, you might as well learn something useful while printing exam papers, instead of being a daydreamer. I turned to leave. From behind, Ernest Francis said his last words. Your mom is used to a good life, so be nice to her. I didn't even bother to turn around. The single, wealthy woman is quite happy now. On the day of the score release, Kevin Bennett told me he had also taken the college entrance exam. He waited until today to tell me to give me a surprise. It was indeed a big surprise. His exam score, amidst his business battles and whistleblowing, was only 5 points lower than mine. Hazel took my hand, tears welling up. The difference between people seems even bigger than between people and dogs. I've been hit hard by him for 18 years. 18 years. The four of us were eating skewers and drinking at a barbecue stall. A tipsy Wright put on a pose like a family member. Kara, tell me, what do you see in Kevin? The skewers on the table were piled up like a small mountain. I mumbled, because he saved all the beef skewers, lamb skewers, tendon skewers, chicken skin, and even the treasure chest for me. Wright slammed the table. That's because he couldn't eat any more. No, it's because he specifically saved them for me. We argued back and forth, and suddenly Wright's eyes turned red. Kara, you've changed so much, he said. Kara, I was so afraid you'd be different, but seeing you so happy now, it's really great, truly great. Wright, unable to hold his liquor, cried and caused a scene. Hazel, amused, comforted him, and he eventually calmed down. In my drunken haze, I thought I saw a shooting star streak across the sky, and I opened my hand to catch it. As a result, I lost my balance and nearly fell off my chair. Kevin Bennett caught me. I looked at his youthful demeanor and mumbled, it's really nice. What? Kevin Bennett held me close and asked gently. His eyes were even more beautiful than the shooting star, and his lips looked incredibly kissable. This time, I kissed him. It's really nice. I met you, and you met me. The story ends here. Feel free to subscribe to the channel to stay updated with the latest content. New novels are updated every day.